All right, welcome back, family. We're going to get into it. Once again, here as we go into breaking the chain of oppression. And that takes me into my discussion where I think it's important that we get united against oppression, not just locally or regionally or nationally, but we have to do this internationally. So I've been having that time talking with different communities internationally that are oppressed or being oppressed. Even Iran being oppressed through the embargoes or the sanctions that are being placed upon them, Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, the different countries within Africa. All of this, is a part of the oppression that different countries are feeling due to colonization, due to European rule, right? So off the jump, I just want to thank you all that have come into the live, at this point. And I'm just going to say, tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything, right? You share the live, repost the live. You can add it to your stories. So I'm working on this concept called United Against Oppression. And I'm building networks internationally so that the people can stand up, because I think we've had this thing kind of wrong to where we're looking for the oppressor to enforce a law or a remedy on our behalf. And that part, it's never going to happen. So it's about educating and informing individuals to the sense of where we stand to enforce the law, or we stand to reject the oppression that we realize is impacting and or affecting us. So when we do this, and see, they're also used to us, again, dealing with this on such a marginal level, like, just one group, that group, but calling for a united stance against oppression on a global scale, that would be somewhat different. I'm not saying no one has ever done it before. I don't know. Maybe they have, right? But this is what is impressed upon me at this point, to initiate, to organize. So we're looking to launch and or bring people to the sense of what it means to be united against oppression. Because if we, as the people, and you all like to say power to the people, but where is that power? So it's time for us to actualize the sense of that power and execute to where we enforce law. Some folks don't even feel that we have the ability and or the power to do that, because we're sitting back waiting for an administration or representatives or senators to do it on our behalf. No, can't do it. You can't expect the oppressor to initiate a reprimand on itself. It's not going to happen. And then when you look at how widespread the oppression is, you all, if the people under oppression can stand together to be united against the oppression, and we network to enforce the rule of decolonization, they don't stand a chance. They understand this and they know it, and this is why they rather deal individually with this group or that group, with an Iranian or a Palestinian, or a Venezuelan or a Cuban, a Haitian, a Sudanese, a Congolese. I mean, you name it. As long as they can get you individually, then they'll continue to win. But when we realize the magnitude of oppression globally and how it's affecting so many people, and if we stand in solidarity against it now, as a united front within solidarity, we can force and or enforce law against the colonizers, against the oppressors. Man, at this point, the biggest two oppressors out there is the United States and all the families that, are behind the United States, because the president ain't nothing but a Muppet. I know it seems like they have power and authority, but it's always that invisible character and or hand behind the scene that is really calling the shots and or maneuvering as to how things go. And then you have the state of Israel. I know the face is Netanyahu, but it's the same thing. There's a invisible premise behind each of these bodies of government, but their aim and or their goal is centered around oppression, destabilizing regions to benefit from the resources while captivating, and or controlling the people within those regions, even if that means they set up puppet governments. Right? When they set up these, puppet governments, then, from that standpoint, they have created an ally within a particular region. Now, for where they are within what they call the Middle East, which is a European term, they're only there to destabilize that region. They're really trying to knock the Muslims, out of position and out of place so they can control that entire region. And what's sad is you have the Arabs that have taken the position of a Judas. And for the silver, they've signed on to work with a United States and or an Israel. But what's sad is from the Greater Israel Project, after they get finished, or should they get finished, there you go. I'm going to bring you up, brother. After they get finished, or should they get finished with who is it? After they get finished, or should they get finished with Gaza or Lebanon? Man, they're going into Saudi Arabia and these other countries, as well. So I have one of my guests on stage as well, Billboard. And Billboard represents the FBA. Billboard, you can correct me, if I'm wrong with respect to what I'm saying. But Billboard represents the FBA, which is Foundational Black Americans, which I'm learning even more about what that movement entails. But in the end, one thing I know we have in common is our fight against the oppression. Billboard, welcome to the panel, man. Won't you introduce yourself to the audience and, also let them know what it is that you represent. And I was on your panel
Yes, sir.
once before, and we talk about, the point of being able to have sustainability,
Hmm.
for our people. So, Billboard,
Yes,
Billboard
sir.
Fresh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Well, firstly, before I begin, may I say thank you for inviting me and having me up. I look forward to a, productive conversation because we definitely had a fruitful conversation last we conversed. And so I just want to say thank you and I appreciate you inviting me. And also once again, great short film, as well. So definitely loving the creative side of you as well, man. So keep up the good work. Looking forward to some dope stuff in the future. Now, as far as who I represent, I don't. I say I represent the indigenous people of America. That's us, right? And when it comes to titles, because there are several different titles that people may ascribe to, Foundational Black Americans being one, FBA, that's the more prominent. Then you have Sulan, you have people who just call themselves indigenous, you have people who call themselves by the actual tribes that they are. So one thing that I always try to stress is that to not get caught up in the titles, but like you said, understanding that there's people who see the bigger picture, which is the message, the movement, and making sure that our people, no matter what they call themselves, or even if they are still lost to a degree, that those who have the aptitude, the love for the people, we be the best vanguards that possibly can. So if I represent that, I represent a vanguard for our people here in America, the original people.
Absolutely. That's the end. That's the end to your introduction right there. That's the end.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you once again.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And I just want, at this point, because you were so articulate. Like when I came onto your platform, it was my first time, on your platform. I mean, I heard some things I had not, heard before, and I just think, from that standpoint, I'm always look. I'm not that guy that think I know everything, right? But for what I do know, I stand on it and I'm good at it. But when I come into circles and when I meet people that I feel as if they're edifying or innovative with respect to the conversation, I make certain that I link up with those individuals so that I can learn, even more. And like I told you, I know there's some things that we may not totally agree on, but for the most part, that wouldn't stop us from being able to continue to build because that's what pioneers do when you talk about establishing statehood or nation building. We have these different ideas and conversations, and eventually, we come to a point of making the decision as to how, we're going to execute. So one of the things, I'm working on right now is a concept called United Against Oppression. And what I've been doing is I've been building um, not only locally, nationally,
Mhm.
locally, regionally, and or nationally, but I've also been building internationally to create networks because oppression is wide. Not only is it affecting us, but it's affecting so many other people and nationalities. But one thing I do express is our people have experienced this oppression for over 4,000 years, with 250 years being right here in America. So we're the liberators, and as you said, being vanguards. But we that people, that in the end, when oppression is going to be resolved, we'll be at the forefront of it. And for those that are in Palestine and for those that are in Iran and Cuba and Haiti and Venezuela and all around the world, will be the ones that, come to the point of rescue and or standing, at the forefront of that liberation. And I know this, and I've said this, on my panel and in videos before. Some of these people didn't give a damn about us, and a number of us have been scarred and or are mad about that. But here now we have an opportunity to be at the forefront of what liberation looks like and being the liberator of all people that are oppressed. Because when it comes to having this enacted, the oppressor is not getting ready to pass or enforce any measure against itself. But the way we organize within our groups and within our networks, we have an opportunity at this point in time to do something that has not been done in my lifetime or my parents or my grandparents' lifetime with respect to uniting um, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally within the banner of, eliminating oppression. And we're at the forefront, of it. So I'll stop there and
Yeah.
to articulate some things that should be heard.
Mm. Well, I want to firstly say that everything that you said in theory actually absolutely sounds, great, right? It was right on brand for who we are as the indigenous people here of the America of the United States, sorry, of America, and just us as a lineage. But I want to give just a little bit of pushback, if you don't mind, to your last talking point. Now, when we speak about global oppression and us being in this perpetual position of leadership and placing this burden upon ourselves, and I call it a burden for a reason, because we've been doing this. We've been the example for centuries, right? For decades, if you want to speed it up to, civil rights and beyond. Whatever part of history you want to talk about. I mean, from us showing up in Ethiopia to help them out against the French to us speaking out, helping them in South Africa, you know, the Caribbean, Cuba, whatever, we have this we have this superhero mentality that unfortunately everybody else across this entire planet, from the white tea supremacist to the melanated immigrant, understands and then tries to weaponize. What do I mean? Well, like I said, haven't we been a great enough example long enough? How much more teaching can we possibly do? I mean, at this point, it'll just become hand holding. On top of that, when we start to look overseas, it doesn't matter from Latin America to Africa to the Caribbean, we see huge instability and very little to no desire from the very people who are there to reverse the situations that they are currently in. There's a saying that I firmly believe in: you can't want something more for somebody else than they don't want for themselves. And so, with that being said, I once again want to state that haven't we been great enough examples? And if what is it that they still haven't learned? These are important questions and conversations we have to have with these people, because they understand they have people like yourself with great intentions, and then they literally manipulate that. When we look over there in critical mass, it literally doesn't matter what country, like I said, Central America, Latin America, Africa, the Caribbean. These individuals in critical mass, okay, in critical mass, are not together. They just are not together. All right. So now we're speaking about individuals who are the dominant population. They're not suffering, or living or being forced under the same conditions that we are, being the minority here in America. These people literally are the majority in their lands, yet they let corruption just, become cancerous within their society, generationally as well. And then now here we are, feeling like we now have to take on this task, this lifetime task. 'Cause that's what it's going to become. And at what point do we say that, we have a lot of work to do on our own front for what it's worth, And wouldn't it be easier to kind of galvanize, organize, firstly here, real quick, no matter how long it takes before we start reaching out to the world? Because for what it's worth, we've the We Are the World campaign, we've been doing that for a very, very long time, You know what I mean? So the We Are the World campaign ain't working right now. And it's become tiresome. It's become infiltrated as well. It's very unfortunate. We want to be there. We want to be able to meet these individuals, but they're really, there's no desire on their end, on the level that we have. So unfortunately, it's a no for me on that level. I at least want to put this energy more towards our people. And I mean, maybe there's a possible, who knows? But there's a whole lot that's going to have to change. And it starts with accountability, in my opinion.
Yep, I get it. Yep. Uh, I feel you with that, and that was that thing that I said where we're taking this stance and we're doing different things and we're working it from different angles, and I respect your position, and I can't not be a part of the way you're interacting, and how others within. Would I be wrong by classifying it as foundational Black America? Would I be wrong by classifying it as that, or how do you classify it?
Well, see, that's the thing where, when you start to speak classification, we're now sounding like an organization or a group or something like that. When I just say identify, then that's a different wording and verbiage, which kind of, takes it away from being weaponized against us. So I would just say, as far as how do I identify? I identify as multiple, right? Even though I may use FBA because that's more relevant. So I use even black interchangeably, right? Because I understand that there's people on different levels of knowledge when it comes to this. There's some people who's just now learning about this. And so I got to meet people where they're at. But if I truly want to say who I identify as indigenous, really, you know what I'm saying? But I do use, certain identifiers as far as relevancy, just to, you know, bridge the gap, between, whoever it is I may be out there talking to.
No, I just want to make sure that I'm very much respectful and not misidentifying. So
Sure,
even with as being the indigenous, these are things that we deal with. And again, I get the conversation as to where we look at it, and I know, like, for too long, it's like every time we try to do something, it's like then come all these other people and get involved, and it's like then it gets co-opted and messed up, and things of that nature. So I know that history, and by no stretch of the imagination am I purporting that when I talk about being united against oppression and building international networks, will I allow for that to happen? Okay. But I also feel like, this thing is so big that it would be wise that we don't consider taking it on by ourselves, you know,
Mm.
but being strategic to make certain that, we're at the forefront, of being able to um, delegate what transpires and how it goes on. Because in all honesty, when we're liberated, that is when the rest of the world population being oppressed can be liberated. And
I,
these people here in America, they know this, and this is why they've made a declaration to say it's a threat to national security for us to be organized or for us to deal with organizations. So I'm just making it clear to individuals, let's
mm,
not let's not be mistaken. They deem us the enemy. So I don't hold any bar to fire back and say, well, then they are the enemy because they've made it clear, that we're a threat. Go ahead, Billboard.
no, well, no, it's great points. But see, here's the difference between, the, I don't know why there's a little bit of feedback. Sorry, but as far as us, we
Hold
see
on one
we
second.
took.
Hold on 1 second, Billboard. Hold on 1 second.
Mhm.
Guys, just that part where I asked you to tap the screen, that part don't cost anything. Share the live, repost the live. Make sure you follow my guest, Billboard Fresh. This is a very articulate, brother. I
Thank you.
came across, his live one day, and we're definitely going to be friends, throughout this process,
Yeah.
as
Hmm.
we work on solutions. So make sure you follow Billboard Fresh. Share the live, repost the live. That part doesn't cost anything. Tap the screen. Y'all know what the deal is from that standpoint. Go ahead, Billboard.
Yeah, because you said something that made me think, and you know the thing about these organizations when it comes to us uniting with other melanated groups or so per se, right? Let's say we look at how Pan-Africanism has been super duper infiltrated, and then we look at the roots and who created Pan-Africanism. You know what I mean? But see, here's the difference why, you don't see that same amount of infiltration. You see higher gatekeeping when it comes to the names like FBA or Sulan, etc. Why? Because we were the ones who actually took the power from the white tea supremacists to group us, to label us, because each time they ever have, it's always been a mislabeling. But at the end of the day, I think what I mean, not I think what I always stress, the bigger picture is the use of the soft power where we're telling the white tea supremacists, you're no longer in control of who my identity is. You're not going to call me anything. That's why I really try to stress people, don't get caught up in that. Because we all have these different titles, but in the back of our mind, we all still know that we're indigenous here. So, yeah, I park my whip with that right there.
We got Mario on the stage. Mario, welcome. Mario is also one of my brothers within the cause, and we're in the background truly working to deal with this concept of decolonization, creating committees and different things that need to be done to remedy oppression. Welcome, Mario. Please enlighten us, with your expression and your knowledge, brother.
Greetings, brother 2K. What an eloquent introduction. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. I did want to point your attention to user 2639 down in the chat. I don't know what that's all about, but you may want to throw out a disclaimer. If nothing else, at least let him know that our biology, pictures, and voice impressions are under copyright, and if violated, the perpetrators will be sued to the highest extent of the law. So with that disclaimer, I'll move on.
What's
Um,
going on? What are you doing? I mean, because I don't be
I
paying attention.
mean, it seems like an agent to me. It seems like
Oh man, I
he's
love,
taking
I
pictures
love,
and
man, I love having them. In I mean, shit, they help to keep it popping,
you
but
hitting the big time, brother. You hitting the big time.
I made it.
And brother Billboard, brother, you sound very intellectual and articulate, and I appreciate your presence.
Nice to
Um,
meet you, brother. Thank you as well. Appreciate it.
I think you have an appropriate heading, decolonization. I dare you, with the crazy man up there. Um, as times continue to evolve, and we see this world just spiraling from the people who have claimed power. It seems to me more and more evident that it is important for us to increase our internal fortitude. So what do I mean by internal fortitude? I believe that we need to really look in the mirror and determine our own contracts, what feels right or what uh, we've been taught as right or correct according to our cultural standards. And I think we need to study history to get an idea of how our ancestors moved and how they would have taught us to move, because it's quite apparent that those teachings have been null and void, especially since the colonization of these lands. With different concepts, not just, I don't want to make it a color thing, but just different concepts and ways of living in, in a word, the usufruct. uh,
Oh, oh,
so, it's become a commercial world. And to most people growing up today, this commercialism is the world and it is life. When many people, such as yourself and me, who have grown up in an era without cell phones and even computers, understood that different lessons were being taught at that particular time. So it wasn't as commercial. You had your private life and you had public life, and you were taught, hey, you don't put your business out there in the street. What happens in the house stays in the house. We understood what public and private was. We understood that there was a persona that you had to exhibit outside the house. And then when you come home, it was a totally different set of rules. So, and I believe, for lack of a better term, religion or our morals of right and wrong played a big part or played a bigger part in what life was and how we governed the house. And as we look to regain our foothold on self-governing, it is these lessons, I believe, that we're going to have to revisit and understand and comply with, especially if we are talking about taking our proper place in self-governing. And as we begin to self-govern, those who choose to align themselves with us on a global level and look at us as the authority, because in order to lead, it helps to understand or remember what it was like to be near the bottom or at the bottom. And the trials and tribulations that we go through now are all lessons that we need to internalize so that once we do regain a position of self-government and others look to us for example and to follow suit, we know how to govern them properly and not oppress them or take the place of the people who afflict us now. So basically, you have the same positions with new faces, but you have the same old mindset that we have been socialized into for over 400 years. So I say all that to say that, Brother Billboard, it may seem fruitless at this point now to try to teach the younger generations or to teach, everybody who we feel within our community should align with us for the purposes of regaining power in order to be self-governing. And, it may continue to be, one step forward, two steps back for a while, but those internal contracts that we make within ourselves, that is what we're going to have to rely on to be fulfilling instead of looking for people to get on board and align with us, because we can't force anybody to do it. All we can do is do what we can do. And we search for people like Brother 2K and yourself who have the intellect and the capability and the capacity to be able to talk to each other and build. But I understand that can't happen unless, Brother 2K is a knowledgeable, respectful, and a brother who has looked at himself, evaluated himself, and is willing to align himself with things that are going to empower us as a community, because he looks to empower himself with those same qualities. So he is worthy of someone to be associated with and to build with, and to talk and to reason out strategies as to how we can become decolonized and also self-governed. And I appreciate anybody on this platform who is looking to do the same. So, Brother Billboard, I would like to count you as a brother, and I look forward to continued discussions. And with that, I'll land my plane, Brother 2K.
Yeah,
Um,
y'all make sure you follow the brother Billboard Fresh. Make sure you follow my brother Mario. And Mario, I see your guy where he said all evidence collected will be forwarded to the monitoring team. All I can say to that is
that's
suck
it.
my big toe. I know y'all thought I was great go there, but that's your
Oh, my
mind.
bad.
You can suck my big toe, but you can forward whatever you want to forward to the monitoring team. We're dealing with evidence-based academic research. We're dealing with real world issues. Real people, are dealing with real problems, right here. And we're using this opportunity, to make certain that we can come up with a viable way to thrive. We're tired of surviving. It's time for us to thrive, because it's for us to rule the world in its proper position and no place, because it's obvious y'all can't handle it. Right now, you all are causing, what do they call it? Climate change. What's the other word they use? Climate change and what's the other one? I can't think of it. Anyway, but you all are bringing the world to a point of climate change. The air is polluted, the water is polluted, the food is polluted. Everything is in a downward spiral under your stewardship. So it's obvious that you're not the right people to lead the world even into peace. You can't do that. Every time you say peace, somebody lose their life. Every time you say peace, somebody lose their land, lose their house. Another resource is gone. So you can't be trusted. And as we understand, there's a crisis right now. And people have no confidence in the government. And you all, this is happening worldwide. All right, so real quick, we got Jamming, up at the top. I want to let Jamming get a chance to come in, and then we're going to come back to Billboard Fresh. Jamming, I just can't say the first part, Jamming. I don't know if they're going to try to knock me off, for using that
Yeah,
any. Welcome
yeah,
back.
no, I get it. Yes, sir. Salute to you, brother, and salute to constantly kicking knowledge and having people of a like mind up here doing the same thing. It's been a pleasure every time I sat on your stage. So thank you. Um, decolonize. Oh my goodness, decolonization.
Yep.
Yes, yes. So yes, it is. We have to do this. I am of the uh, black majority ideology. I moved from Washington State to Wilmington, Delaware, to build upon that, to run for office, and to get our people tangibles. I believe infiltrating the system in a way, in a good way, not like bad, but bringing like minds and getting a foundational Black American, American Negro, Black American, freedman, however you self identify, until we get someone like that, like minded, in a governor's seat, we can never have the power and the ability to self sustain. Um, and that is the ideology I moved out here to implement, as well as strategize with like minds in the area to build. I believe that our government, as we know it today, is completely went rogue, and the Constitution reads it's up to us to hold that in check. And we believe black shout out to blackcommunityapp.com. If you don't know about that, please reach out. Look at that. It's our people from across the country building and giving us a place to truly share for us, by us ideas. And we believe that that's the way to do it. And until, lastly, I'll shut it down like this. Until we get that governor's seat where we can actually call for, the National Guard and to have real defense for our statehood, nothing's going to change. And anything less than that is insufficient. And that's why people like myself, I'm in a wheelchair, right? I came across the country in a wheelchair to do this, to show all of us that if I can do this in a wheelchair, any of us can do this, right? So it's not hard. I'm not perfect. I'm learning as I go. But the more of us that step up to the plate and actually hit the ball, the more likely one of us is going to sit in that governor's seat. So thanks for letting me speak, brother 2K, and I'm honored to sit up here amongst this kind of brain power. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So I do want to let you guys know it show we got some MAGA folks, in the audience, and I just want you to know God is not going to bless America, and it's not going to be great again, because we really don't even know what the hell that means. And we have different perspectives, up here on the panel right now, but we're gonna work it out with respect to how we move towards it. And I hold, no position to not express that I'm not that Democrat, I'm not that Republican. I feel like those two heads are part of the same body. If there's a vote, I feel like it should be for liberation. I feel like the vote should be to end oppression. But if someone such as Jamming could get into a position and or place, and they feel as if they can make a difference, then I may have an ally to whereby we can truly, accentuate change from different perspectives. So we're going to go back to Billboard, and then we're going to go up to Abdul. Go ahead, Billboard.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity again. Brother Rio had said something a little earlier that I want to touch on, where he said, when we're back in our righteous position, being leaders, the way we're, wielding our soft power and showing right now, you know, them, meaning the others, the third worlders and the white tees, looking to us as authority or as the authority, right? And you see, that's just the key because when have, unfortunately, in critical mass, have these other, from the immigrant class to the whitey, have they ever looked at us as authority? They've always looked at us as a threat. It's always been adverse. And the people that we've constantly fought for has not reciprocated, in my opinion, on that same level. It's just human nature to not want to continually do something for somebody that they're A, not doing for themselves, and then B, definitely not pouring back into you. So when we start to talk about giving our and really fueling our energy and fighting for decolonization, we have to ask ourselves seriously, how do these other individuals feel about decolonization? Okay, we could feel as strongly as we want, but if they don't feel the same way, I'm trying to tell you, this is going to be a circulatory, not only, conversation, but let alone, progress or momentum is really not going to be any at all, and that's just in respect because I'm just doing what? Studying behavioral patterns. Behavioral traits is a real thing. And we have to operate, in my opinion, in logic. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some that actually understand that the bigger agenda, because make no doubts about it. global white supremacy could have been over with if these other groups who are the majority in their land stepped up and actually did their jobs, meaning fight on the same level or with the same fervor that we've had. Because they're the majority over there. We're the only ones who's a minority, you know what I'm saying, within our country like that. And look at the amount of work we put in, not only here, but globally. So that's literally the only reason why I can't. But if I had to say if we could work quote unquote together, I would say let's put the message and put the challenge out there to the quote unquote good ones because I can't tell the difference. I can't tell who's a good one. I just like because they're the silence. It's the silence for me. The silence, unfortunately, is complicit. They much rather fall on that sword, let their degenerate class be their predominant identifier, and unfortunately, giving them a bad reputation because they don't have the level of accountability we do. Now, I just want to, because I know there's other people here. I want to speak about something called a parallel autonomy. Now, we've done the greatest job at creating what's called a parallel autonomy. What's that? Simply said, a nation within a nation. We were forced to do that. Meanwhile, these other people who are the majority, who have the power, they haven't even tried to do anything near the same level with the efforts in order to create their
I'm
own
sorry to interrupt, but
parallel
we are the
autonomy.
majority.
Huh?
Don't interrupt. Let him finish his thought, please.
hmm So, yeah, I'm just saying, as far as us foundational Black Americans in America, okay, and globally, the white tea, we understand they're the minority, but when I'm saying that they are the majority in their lands, these immigrants who are coming here, and there's not the same level of fight, that is a problem. We could have ended global white tea supremacy a long time ago if we had the same level of effort from people who are in their lands who have the greater population. It just think about it. We could have used 2 billion reinforcements from Africa. You don't think that would have been good enough? But look, they just so fragmented over there, but yet we're taking on this burden of trying to convince everybody to get on board. It's just become a non-fruitful event. I would say the good ones now have to campaign, hold the bad ones accountable, and seriously start doing things that's going to benefit their future generations because they have failed generation after generation after generation. They have not changed conditions for the better for themselves. There's no way I could possibly fight for somebody who don't want something more than themselves, and that's where my premise is on from this. Lastly, I do want to say that it is not fruitless to teach the youth. In fact, I believe that we need to spend more time on the youth. I create programs. Um, I've been creating programs, man, since I was the youngest person on my community advisory board in Harlem, and I'm still doing it. Just helped out a Milwaukee Public School District, so I'm definitely boots on the ground when I do this. But one thing I do also understand that not everybody's going to get this message. So we can't really waste time with the youth. They're targeting them, so we have to go hard on the boulevard for them. But as long as you have that understanding that it's us first, everybody else after, I could rock with you. We can't have this kumbaya because that's going to slow us down at this moment. Us first,
So,
and I
so
park my way.
I did hear what you said with respect to it's hard to tell who's who, and I do acknowledge everybody is not going to accept, the same things. Like there are some people that are going to align perfectly with what I say, perfectly with what you say, perfectly with what, Jamin, says, and, that's just what it's going to be. So I'm prepared to accept that. But in the end, I hope to collaborate with your network and his network that we can find that common thing that we
Yeah.
need to deal with. And one thing I'm looking at right now, it is the ability to end the oppression, the ability to resolve decolonization, to understand what it means to have or to reclaim autonomy and have self-determination and kind of go from that standpoint. Well, I want to say this, right here, guys. Share the live, repost the live. I mean, we've had a fluctuating number of people coming in and out of the room. We should have more shares and more reposts, within the live at this point. And you guys, you can tap the screen. That part does not cost anything. Also, that's how you show your support for the live. We got a lot of haters, that are in the comments, right now. And I can only say this. Why are you here? You really could be someplace else. You didn't have to comment. Just keep it moving, right? This conversation is truly centered around those that realize there's a problem and we're looking to deal with solutions. You guys hate when we start talking about this and then you say, oh, stop playing the victim. So I'm just going to add this part to the conversation right here because I've been talking about this for the past couple of days. I don't want to hear not near one of you ever again to say to any of us when we start speaking about the things that we're going to say to us to stop playing the victim unless you're prepared to tell the Jewish community to stop playing the victim because they've been playing the doggone victim from 1915 on up until now, and they've been paid to play the victim, okay? And I did the report and I showed the newspaper articles where they received in the 1920s $1 billion to rebuild jewelry. Do you know the net worth of $1 billion in 1920? And then they turned around again and got $100,000 and then turned around again and they got $50,000. So don't you ever open your damn mouth to tell us to stop playing the victim when they've played their way to the victim all the way to reclaiming some land over in what now they call the Middle East that don't even belong to them. So we're going to continue building and looking to resolve and or talk about things that have plagued us as a people, in our community. So I'm going to go to Abul, and then we're going to go to Roasted by TT. And I think that's everybody on the panel. Okay, Abul, and then Roasted by TT. Anybody else that want to come up, y'all just hit that plus sign and I'll try to get you on the stage.
Greetings, brother. Yes, my name is Abdul Khalis.
Abdul, I apologize. Abdul.
Oh, no worries. Greetings to the panel, to everyone present, men and women. I just want to start by saying that I applaud your efforts in holding these discussions to try to enlighten the masses, to try to unify, to strategize, mobilize, galvanize our people, which is much needed. I want to say that how colonization started is how it's going to finish. Unfortunately, we have perilous times ahead of us, and I don't want to sound pessimistic or to sound like I'm, bringing some type of omen that's bad, but we have to look at things in realistic terms of the type of individuals who we're dealing with. Frantz Fanon said that they started in violence. This is what they know. If you look throughout history, who has been doing all the BOMBing, who has been calling all the tragedy across the world, exploitation of the global south, our human brothers and sisters all across the planet, who dropped BOMBs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, who has engaged in, who called them, their children, hunters. People that hunt things are people that unalive things. Who was the people that called their children that to go out to try to not have compassion or empathy or altruism, right? Altruism, the unselfish interest in the welfare of others. Yeah, it could have been a beautiful place if they would have included everyone, but everyone wasn't included. They didn't want to include everyone because they want to have everything to themselves, unfortunately. And that's just, realistically speaking, dealing with people who don't really care unless it happens to them. See, if they can identify and say, "Oh, this happened to my child, or to my daughter, or to my son," they don't care because it's not happening to them. So when we try to express and voice our experience, and they dismiss it and become disingenuous and say, oh, that's not really what you are experiencing. Let me tell you what you're experiencing. Hey, hold on. You have the audacity and the gall to say that my experience is less than valuable when you know that I am valuable, because you are the one who stated that melanin is worth more than $500 a gram. I didn't state that. That's what you wrote. So they know the value of us. They know the value of our DNA, you know. But I'm gonna leave it there, and I just want to applaud you and commend you, brother, on your efforts and being able to, bring enlightenment to our people, to all people, because this is work. This is work that everyone has to do, not just us. They have to do their own work too. Not only the perpetrators, but the people who have been subject to oppression has to do their own work. And I'll land my plane.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go to Roasted by TT, and then we're gonna go to Starman Alpha. And let me say this real quick, because for whatever reason, folks used to be able to hit, just join, and I could see how many people I can add them, but something funny going on with that. But right here on the left-hand column, you should see where it says invite, and there should be a plus sign above that. If you all touch that, it should give me an opportunity to bring you up. So if you don't see it, I don't know what to tell you. And to the brother, give me a second real quick, you guys.
Drop me down, brother, and bring somebody else up. This is Abdul. You can drop me down.
Okay, I'll drop you down. And to the brother, Aluru, I don't have a way that I can bring you up. So I don't know. You have to hit that. You have to hit that plus sign. Right there. If you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you, because they're not making it easy for me to bring people up, right now anymore. So let's go with Roasted, and then Starman.
Salute, host and panel. Hey, Billboard. So I was sitting up here and I was listening to everything that everybody was talking about, and I agree. I think that first of all, we're looking at trying to figure out what we can do to fix this decolonization thing, but for us as a community, we have to start with us first, and everybody is not going to be on board. And that's okay. We're going to have to learn how to leave people where they are and move forward, because the only way that we're going to be able to fix this is we can't continue to stay stagnant. For those that want to join, that want to stop this oppression and everything else, then they will join along with everybody else. But we have to, before we can help anybody else, because the problem that we've been having is we've been helping everybody else. And we've been the community that has taken a hit to make sure that everybody else have been able to be productive, hoping and thinking that we had allies to where if we supported other communities and helped them get on track, then when it was our turn, that they would do the same. And what we are realizing is that's not the case. So it's time for us we ought to be selfish at this point. We can't continue to put ourselves out there and focus on everybody else. And our babies is out there up in the streets. Our men and our women, our community is not where it needs to be. Our ancestors, what they went through, we owe them. We owe them. We owe ourselves to be able to be a productive people and be the greatness that we are. Look at the inventions that we have invented. So we have it up in us, but we just have to learn how to be able, and if people want to call us selfish, oh well. Because we wasn't selfish during the Civil Rights Act. We've always put ourselves on the back burner to help everybody else, and then when it's time for everybody else to stand with us, we always hold in the bag, and we're always told that we're being divisive and We have all these issues with everybody else. It's time for us to love ourselves. It's time for us to save ourselves. And then once we get us together, then we can come back if possible and try to see what we can do with other people. But we can't do anything with other people if we can't do nothing with ourselves, especially with other people where they showing us they don't even want to do it for their own selves. They had to come up over here off of our backs. So we can't continue to fight for people that won't even stand up to the same oppressors that we are dealing with. We paved the way. We took the hits in the belly of the beast for people to be able to come up over here, and they still disrespect us. So it's time for us as a people to do what it is that we need to do, focus up on our people, and do what our ancestors have put up into us. Because a lot of our ancestors, even a lot of the people that did the civil rights movement, I'm hearing a lot of elders say how they wish that they didn't march and they didn't do all these movements because they're seeing the constant disrespect from a lot of these other groups that don't appreciate the cost that it took for them to be able to have the freedoms. And we got to stop trying to give other people freedom when we don't even have it. We're putting everybody else before we're putting ourselves, and it's costing us. So my question to us is, when do we say enough is enough? Even if that means it's our own. Sometimes you got to leave people behind. Just like Harriet Tubman was saying, she would be able to free 1,000 more SLAVES if they knew that they was free. Some of our people, they don't know that they free, and we got to leave them where they are, because if not, we all as a people will be destroyed. And I'm not willing to take that chance, because our ancestors, what they did and how they paved the way for us, their blood isn't for free. Their bones isn't for free. We're not allowing them to go out like that. I don't care about what other people do and how they respect their ancestors. Our ancestors on this soil, their blood is still up on this soil, and we're going to respect that blood. We're going to respect their bones and their tears and everything else, and everything that they went through will not be forgotten, and it will not be taken advantage of by nobody else and not by us. We have it up in us for us to be able to do it. Now it's time for us to move and just continue to push forward. And if we got to let go some of ours, so be it. We can't continue to stay stagnant, because it will destroy all of us. And we got to come up out that mindset, and we got to focus up on us and do what it is that we need to do, because we got it up in us. Look at all the communities that we built up in history. Look at all the inventions that we have done. The world operates off of things that we have invented. We don't get to process it and be able to take advantage of it, because we're so busy trying to make sure that everybody else is good. And even though we're trying to make sure that everybody else is good, they still want to act like we not deserving of nothing. We haven't done nothing. So since we're not deserving of nothing, we haven't done nothing, we'll take our stuff, we'll do us, and we'll get ourselves together, and we'll thrive and let everybody think for themselves. And that's just how it is. And it's not being selfish, it's about being smart. And it's about loving yourselves. We have to learn how to start loving ourselves. We owe it to ourselves. We don't owe nobody else nothing at all. And that's all I want to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roasted TT. You got that off your chest now. Feel a little better right now. You need some water after all of that. Truth being spoken. Let's go to Starman. Starman. What I think is Starman Alpha. If you're talking, you're on mute, Starman Alpha.
Yeah, greetings, guys. Yeah. Greetings, host. Greetings, everybody on the panel.
Yep. Hold on, Starman Alpha. Hold on 1 second. All right, you guys, once again, tap that screen. That part don't cost anything. Get the shares and get the likes or the repost. The repost, that's what we're talking about. Get the shares and the repost out there. Add it to your stories. You can do that one too. Okay? And you tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything. So I think that's all I really want to say. We got the comments going. I don't know what's going on with the settings as to where they're saying is something that's preventing me from letting people up. But you should be able to see the invite and the plus sign on the top left of the screen. So this is just something, they're doing, that I've never had this issue before. But we're growing expeditiously, and we're saying things I'm sure they don't like, but we're very strategic, with how we say these things, and we're dealing with evidence-based academic research. We thwart every one of their violations, so right now we're winning. And, most people don't know how to respond, to the violations. And, I wish I could tell you all. If you inbox me, we can talk, and, I can kind of give you the secret sauce, as to how you deal with that when they hit you with the violations. You got to know how to respond, because if you don't respond, they're going to work their way, to shutting you down. But by the grace of the Creator, I've been successful, at preventing them from, hitting me with that. So I think, what's the sister's name? Okay, but go ahead, start, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I used to come to your. I've come to your platform a few times, and I was under the impression that your platform is a Pan-Africanist, well, a Pan-African platform. But these days, online generally, the more I listen, the more I wonder why they even call it Pan-Africanism, because it seems that there's a clash between the Black diaspora and the Africans. I've been listening for a while, and I've heard all this talk about, some people thinking some people are holding them back, and and as a non-American Black person, even though lately I've heard arguments against that I'm not Black, that I'm because I'm not American. And to be honest, I really wish that was the case. And I wish the people making this argument with me wouldn't be making this argument with me. They'll actually take this argument to the whitey people who come up with these classifications, so that when they're practicing their whitey supremacy, they can exempt me because I'm not Black. I'm just an African. So I wish the people who make that argument against me will actually take the issue up with the whitey people. And as a non-American Black person, I actually want the fall of the American empire, because they're the reason my countries on the continent are the way they are. Not just the American empire and their European progenitors. They're the legacy empires, Britain, France. They're the reason any nation of Black people on the planet is still under neo-colonialism, which is still just colonialism. It's just neo-colonialism means new colonialism. So basically it's just a new modus operandi, but still, because the two words have colonialism in them. All Black nations today, whether it's Papua New Guinea, Australian Aborigines, Africans, Caribbeans, as long as a Black nation, today they're under neo-colonialism. I know people will come and make but yeah, it's a Black majority country. Well, this is a bit disingenuous, and this is why I want the American empire gone for the good of this planet. The American empire has a history of not only endemic warfare, but destabilizing other nations for self-interest, destabilizing, G-siding other people. Other people, they claim capitalism, a system they forced on the world, is supposed to be democratic. Well, how democratic is capitalism really? If I decide to practice something else other than capitalism, and then you come siege me with sanctions and then start BOMBing me. So much for human rights. I mean, little wonder, human rights is so double standard. Dare I say, even human rights is racist. Because if the people that are the arbiters of your 21st century human rights today, the people that claim to hold the standards of human rights today, are history's most genocidal people, little wonder it's racist. And that's why every time I ask them, so guys, whitey people particularly, can you actually, please, can you tell me which trumps which? Human rights or might is right? Especially the whitey Americans. Those guys are crazy. I actually think your average whitey American is a psychopath. They always suddenly human rights means nothing because they always choose might trumps right. They always choose might is right over human rights. Suddenly you begin to wonder if might is right over human rights. Then what's the point of even telling people there's human rights? Even though there's human rights, but because I'm stronger than you, I could just rise up and just take or do what I want anyways, regardless of human rights. What's the point of human rights? And this is why I want the American empire gone and all her Western legacy empires. Because for the past 500 years, they've gone on a campaign fucking up the rest of the planet. And hey, on a round planet, what goes around comes around. They fucked around and the karma is coming back. The decline of the dollar, with that, the decline of the Western empires, including their military. Forget all the shiny stealth this, aircraft that, carrier that. Forget all that. Hey, nukes even have an expiry date. Cut off their supply to uranium. As long as they don't have any more uranium, those nukes and some other critical metal elements. There's one particular one, I can't remember the name. As long as they can't get those resources, those nukes have 15 years max. They all useless. And you see, when the American empire goes around, for the past 500 years, this group of humans have gone around bullying everybody. If anybody actually knows game theory, you know that in a group where some people have more selfish strategies and some people have more cooperative strategies, in the short term, the selfish strategies win. They look like they're winning. But in the longer term, the cooperative strategies not only win, but they ostracize the selfish strategists. And that's what's happening to the American empire now. And that's why you see them scrambling around desperately. Look, I understand some people claim, oh, America is their country, they love America. But I will not, for your love of whatever America, especially, well, for the black ones, I mean, so much for America loving you and it being your country. Yeah, but fine, I understand that. But don't talk down at me, being I'm an African. Don't talk down at me when you're also a beneficiary of what your country and government is doing to me. That's gaslighting and an insult on my intelligence.
Oh, okay. That last part, what you just said, I kind of don't understand. When you say about what our country, well, I don't even like to say our country because I don't associate myself, with the intentions of this government. But when you talk about what this government is doing to you, like I don't understand how that has anything to do, with us. And I've never considered myself to be a Pan-Africanist or nism, none of that. What I've understood is my people here, in these United States have been dealing with oppression all of my life. And no one has ever cared and or came to the need or assistance of our people. Now, me personally, I don't hold any anger against any other nationality because I see also that the degree of oppression is global. So I think we have something in common with respect to needing to end the oppression. But I'm realizing as I'm entering other platforms and talking, with other members within my family, they pissed off. I mean, they real pissed off from the standpoint of how Africans or Jamaicans or other Latinos for so many years and for so long they never wanted to associate themselves with being black. So that has caused a degree of rift in this day and time as to where, I'll just say it has caused a degree of rift. Now, I'm looking to be diplomatic and find ways that we can work together because I do realize we have a common threat. And in the beginning and in the end, is truly going to be, up to us here in America, because when we liberate, then everybody else will have an opportunity, to liberate. But for years, it's been recognized that other nationalities have come to America, have benefited, in America, due to the way the system had set it up that way. And then they look down on us as black folks and they say, me no black, or I'm not black. And, that is a thing, that has caused the rift. Now, I'm still saying I look for us to grow beyond that point, because right now we do have, a common threat, that's between all, people of nationality and or melanation, and that is those of the European inferiority. Okay. I got ATP TV up, and I need to let her, speak. You guys, she's an attorney or an aspiring attorney, and she's within a particular group, and they're doing some work. She may be able to tell us a little bit about, what they got going on, and, how it may be beneficial, for you all to tap in, with her and follow her page, as well. And I say, you guys, continue to share the live, continue to repost the live. You tap that screen, that part, doesn't cost anything. ATPTP.
Hey, Cost 2K, how are you? I truly appreciate the affirmation. So I'm taking a pause while I'm dealing with the transition of my father. So yes, I am and will be going back to finishing law school, but right now I'm taking a pause. I do appreciate the affirmation. I do pro se. I work with in our building initiative right now for declarations. I'm on the Black Community app. I did send, thank you so much. I did send Black an invitation. I hope he got it so he can come up on panel. I listened to the gentleman speak, and the thing that gets me and always gets me is that, we talk about, or people from other nations talk about the American empire falling with no regards to Black Americans' position and sustainability in our own country that we continuously have to fight and have been fighting for generations. That's always lost in the conversation. I get people's positions and not wanting to align with the people who have positioned themselves in our government and have always positioned themselves in our governments, because the people who have always turned over into representation and governance have always been people from generations of immigration. And we're talking about from European to Caribbean to some places in Africa that probably folks coming into our governance would never go into their own countries and fight for the liberation of their own people. They don't fight for the liberation of us here, and they are in our governance. However, the movements that we have documented, like those who were part of the Negro movement, the color movement, the Deacons of Defense, and others who became very prominent and legendary, they left blueprints for us to follow on why self-governance and community governance was important. So it is not that America should fall. It is that imperialism to European culture that has been devastating not just here on these lands, but around the world, that should fall. I would never want countries in Africa where people are going to prop themselves up in posture to take care of their people to fall. But I would want you to fight back against tyranny, against the harms that are happening to you. Because that is what is required of us here. So, this conversation, I guess, is very important. And the understanding of what decolonization really and truly is, I think it looks different in 2026 based on newfound information, access to knowledge, and exploring that with the family in access, getting people to understand how to move and understanding why it is important for us to capture the power of states to rival imperialism and colonization. Decolonization is not just the mind of wanting to move and run somewhere else, because moving and running somewhere else, you'll run into the same thing. You'll be outnumbered. You could also never get into governance, and your learning of cultures would they would clash. So to me, there has to be a different conversation when it comes to what does it look like to capture authority and power and where you're from, or to topple over corrupted regimes or administrations that do not serve you. And I'll end there.
Decolonization, it's not about going, back to Africa. I mean, we're not going, anywhere. And I do have to mention, as I said before, we have a interesting scenario before us, because there are people that hear my speech and they align with the points and topics that I've put out, and there are people that hear what you say, and the brother Jamming, what he's saying, and what the brother Billboard, and different people are aligning with different perspectives. Now, to me, this is the beginning of nationhood. I mean, when you look at how they actually created this thing called America, they went through the same thing. These different ideologies and perspectives that were in a room arguing and, going back and forth until finally, they came up with something that they could execute. So I enjoy having the different perspectives, and I don't feel like my way is the right way. And I believe that, we definitely have to continue having these conversations. Now, I do have certain things that I'm passionate about, and I'm going to move on those things. And in the point of moving, I reach out to extended family and see, where we align to even have that support. But, in the end, or in the beginning, let me just say it that way, it's important that we have these different perspectives so that we can rationalize and or scrutinize that thing about truth. I love the point of scrutinizing truth because it'll never change. That's the one thing we can depend on. So real quick, I have a Ahmed, that wanted to come up. Ahmed, welcome to the panel. What would you like to add to the conversation, Ahmed?
Thank you very much. I have been to your space like many times, and I like how the conversation go, and I like the topic. I'm from Egypt, North Africa. I'm a Sunni Muslim, just a normal person. I live in a country where we have 20% Christians. It was a Coptic country. I don't know if you guys know about Egypt, But we have like we live a normal people, a normal life with Christians that we have in our country. We don't even ask questions like how they worship or what's the differences between Muslims and Christians or any of that. We have also in the south of Egypt and the most of the country, we have also like black colored people, the Nubians. They're even more. They have ancient, like real ancient civilization that they have kept. They have their own language, like a second language in our country. We don't even, for my people who live in the north, we don't speak it. They never documented it, and the government is helping them to keep in it this way. As for my country and the U.S., the government and the both governments have like great cooperation and a lot of like they work together on many levels, especially when it comes to security and if you know about the our neighbors, we have Palestine and Israel and the conflicts happening there. But the thing is that I want to share is we don't have those conflicts in our countries, but since I came to TikTok and I'm new to TikTok and I was surprised of people like trying to force this narrative that we should have or we are lying if we say that we don't have those differences or we don't have those problems. We don't. I remember in the last 20 years, I'm 42. The last 20 years, the few times that there was conflicts between Muslims and Christians in our country, it was made up by the government. Even people, the population of the Egyptians, they resisted this. The only times we carried weapons in Egypt against the government were in the times they tried to make a crack between the Muslims and Christians because we're not ready for that. We don't have those. We don't have racism in Egypt. It's a kind of manipulation that I also was surprised when I visited the States. Like, why would people like get to that? It's a scam that we can see obvious, but I also was surprised that people fall for it in the States. I'm not like pointing at a certain behavior of something, but it's obvious. We know like we know about the Americans. I think more than they know about us or about like many countries in the world, and this was really surprising. Like they brought us like they helped the Saudis and the Gulf area to feed the world of like 70% of like the aluminium or the gas or whatever. But also at the same time, nowadays with the war that's going now, we feel like they're going to lose those contracts, which are very valuable, not only for the Americans, for this side of the world. You have two sides, the American side of lifestyle and life costs and everything, which more expensive than what the Russians and the Chinese provide to us. The prices of things that we could pay for that comes from the eastern side of the world, the eastern powers, I would say, are cheaper, but also they are brutal. We have seen what they did in Syria and other countries. I mean, like, why we're falling for that? For real, we cannot talk to each other. Like, we here in this side of the world, we have different stories about everything. The Americans, or not the Americans, like the West, to be honest, they have different story that links everything to them, and it's not based in history. I'm from the oldest country on the planet, and we don't have gaps in our history. We have a connected history of 2,600 years. Like, I mean, something is missing, but we understand that it's made by the governments for like this colonization behavior that they're not giving us a chance to heal from it. The whole world was terrified and traumatized by like traumas and things that happened in the World War, the first and the second. We need to heal from that. They need to know that people are fed up with this. We're not accepting all of this chaos that's happening in the world. I don't have a problem with American citizens, but I have a problem with the American policies in the region. We do not accept them, like we don't have a problem with the Iranians, by the way. Our government, the Egyptian government, always tell us, the Egyptian citizens, that we need to be scared of the Iranis. But literally, we don't have any single accident happen between the Egyptians and the Iranis. You know, they're very far away from us. They have their own resources and everything under contracts, and we have our own. We never have problem with the Iranis, but now we're affected by all of that. I'm trying to say that they also need to wake up as people are trying to unite and talk to each other. That's the only thing that we can do. And really what you're doing is really respect. Really. And thank you for having me. That's what I wanted to add.
Ahmed, I appreciate your comments. And one thing I realize is that, we are on a mission to educate, those on the other side of the world as to what's really happening here in America with us and those things that have been hidden so that a truth can come out. But one thing you've expressed, in which I'm saying internationally, is we have a common threat. And that is dealing with that thing of the policies and procedures, of a administration. And, we do have to find a way to work, even through networks internationally, to bring those things to an end, because it plagues us like it plagues you, like it plagues the Iranians, like it plagues the Palestinians, like it plagues the Cubans, the Venezuelans. Everyone is plagued, by the same thing. So that's one of my conversations where, I'm building a platform that speaks to be united against oppression, because that's the one thing we all seem to have in common throughout different regions in the world. We got my brother Robert that has come into the live. Robert, welcome. You always welcome. How will you bless us today, with that big of knowledge you got?
Well, it's really interesting to hear the brother from Egypt talk, and I'm glad that he had the chance to get up here. And when I think decolonization, I think also the decolonization of your mind.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, because we've been taught political correctness. I remember I'm 48, so I remember when I was a child. I remember when, being politically correct, it had just started to happen. People started saying, you got to talk politically correct and this, that, and the third, right? I think the decolonization should really start in people's mind first, and it should start in the head to where. Give you an example. When I used to work for Department of Defense, right? I used to work for the special staff for General Ham. And General Ham is one of the he is one of the generals for one of the global militaries that's connected with NATO. But I used to work for him, and in special staff and the medical staff side of the house. And speaking of Egypt, it was a gentleman. He was a doctor, and he also worked for DoD, and he was from Egypt. And he was telling me how he was raising his son, and how he felt that he needed his son to have high self-esteem to where his son could feel himself. And he had told me this in a conversation. He was explaining to me how colonialization had affected Africans on the continent, and how excuse me, apologize, excuse me, but how it affected them through education, how it affected them through housing, how it affected them through politics. But one thing that really got me is that he said colonialization was also the real big thing of it was making the person look down on themselves, right? And decolonization the reason I say it should start there is because our people, there's been a mental psyop on our people and on others. It's so interesting that you said what you said. You're so right. The psyop has been done on all the people who, let me say it like this, whatever is controlling the beast that is conducting the psyop, it has went to all indigenous nations and done just what you said. And so I feel that decolonization should happen in our minds first, and it should be a connectivity of us all of a like minds, right? So it's kind of like there was a study that I looked at, and it was on monkeys, believe it or not. And what they was doing, they was showing that once a group of monkeys could figure out, and it was like it was a trip. It was like mind blowing. It was like the monkeys, like 10 of them, like once 10 of them were able to learn how to do a task completely, they start finding the same species in different parts of the planet who were not a part of their project in their facility knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
Right? We need to, as we start to vibe higher, because your thoughts are not yours. The thoughts that you're thinking are already in the air. That's why everybody can have the same ideas. So as people start to vibe higher, we'll start to decolonize or deconstruct our mind to go back to being a global people with a global mindset of peace and harmony. When we look at Al Maghrib Al Aqsa, what they call in America, right? When you look at it, the giants here and the people that they call in the Nagas, right? Like I'm talking about like the primordial first world American, right? When America was called Mu, right? Like these people were in harmony, worldwide connectivity through harmony, and the harmony had to start with how they view one another worldwide. And I think that this is how the government, well, they're not the government, I'll say this is how the worldwide corporation keeps all of us in our place through these particular type of tactics, because as long as they can keep our mind colonized, we won't see each other as valuable enough to work with each other in a manner of peaceful political situations, or in a manner to where we can share each other's history, share each other's culture to help better ourselves. It just so happens to be that unfortunately everybody is having to survive under a political, well, let me say it like this, under a military construct that's political. Because as you know, here in America in 1913, it went bankrupt and everybody's under soft martial law. Right? And so with martial law comes the whole ideology of the psyop. Right? And so this is, decolonization is it is very important for us to do in our mind, so that we can have that hive mentality as people of the planet, as earthlings, to deal with one another. Because if we are to deal with one another in unity, the corporation it'll go away. And the only reason I say that is because the corporation is just like a trust. A trust is not a trust in and of itself. It has to have a trustee. It has to have an agent to watch out for its beneficiaries. Right? So in other words, the corporation, the United States corporation, is not an entity in and of itself. It has to have agents, people. Right? So as we vibe higher as people and decolonize our minds to unify with people globally, as a people who want to raise our vibration to peace and harmony, the whole colonized mindset will go away, and so will all the part and parcels of it as well. And with us here in America, it would be what we know as the United States Incorporated, which is a colonial structure that is actually foreign to American soil. So yeah, decolonization, I believe, and I'll land my plane there. I believe for us to go further with it, and go into other realms of decolonization, because it is very deep. It's like a rabbit hole. But I would just land my plane there on a simple note that decolonization, I would hope that everybody understands, is truly all about vibing higher in our mentality and how we see one another as a global people. And when we can see each other valuable, we won't have politics that devalue us. And we won't have people that claim to be our leaders destroying us. I'll land my plane there.
Oh, absolutely. I do appreciate that insight that you bring, man, every time you come to the platform. And I'd say for those that are listening and for those that are available, make sure you follow Robert The brother is very knowledgeable, and I do respect his intellect, as well. And ATP I just said check your inbox. I've been sending you messages. I've been trying to, get up and connect with you, but I did just hear you say you've been dealing with the loss of a family member, your father. So I understand that. But, when time permit, I would like, for us to have a conversation so we can keep talking about this work. I like some things I heard you say that you guys are doing, and I want to inquire more and just see how we can bring some of that conversation into the circles of individuals that I communicate with so we can continue to build, especially from the law perspective, that constitutional perspective, and dealing with it, from that manner. Okay, Mario, let me give you an opportunity, man. You've been real quiet, and for the most part, just listening in. What you want to add to the conversation, Mario?
Been a lot of summations, a lot of information out there, a lot of good information to go research and look up, and it's very interesting to hear the different perspectives, at least the global perspectives, at least from people who aren't on this landmass currently going through our present situation, different history, different socialization or colonization of the mind, if you will. And it just adds to the point that, as a globe, we have a lot of work to do because government is supposed to serve the people, and it does not seem to be an isolated phenomena that the United States government has put itself presently above the people. So we are not alone. We are in this struggle together, whether we know it or not. I do feel that we do have to still localize, and we have to fight our own individual, although they are indivisible battles. So we have to decolonize ourselves first and foremost. Another thing I would like to point out is that there seems to be a philosophy about human rights versus political rights.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I would like to interject on that particular philosophy. If we do the research on how the word human actually came into being, and the 1928 definitions or the old definitions of what a human is, and compare that to ancestral observations, knowledge, and pursuits that we would have been aligned with and taught had we not been colonized in the first place, we would not be referring to ourselves in the first place as human, and it would not be a goal to actually try to adhere or propagandize human rights, because we were not human. We were never meant to be human. And the strive was always to be divine. And in those divine pursuits, we would learn lessons along the way that would help us maintain self-government, such as not being the center. We work for each other. So there is no one aspect of another person that is more important than the aspect of yourself. You strive to be divine as you recognize the people around you striving in that same divinity. Does that mean we're perfect? No, not by any stretch of the manner. We have all fall short of the glory of the Lord, to borrow a phrase, but it is the pursuit of respect and the capability of building with each other, because we see our neighbor as we see ourselves, and we do unto others as we would want done unto us, which is the golden rule, which is, a direct derivative of divinity. Because there's one thing that religion, be it dogma or whatever, they teach you is you don't disrespect your God. Period. And if you can recognize your neighbor as well as yourself as God, you govern yourself to a higher standard, as well as you treat people with a different reverence. And you look for things that are sacred and you value those things. And when you identify that in someone else, that connects with you. And you both strive to continue that and you pass that on to your prodigy. So there's always a level of divinity and or sacredness that you're striving for in your relationships with each other, as well as the inventions or the things that you bring into the world to help each other, as well as to keep the balance with nature and other things that we may encounter. Oh, look at the itty bitty. Beautiful. But I believe that is one thing that has been lost. And I believe that was once at our core. And it also guided not only what you work for and thrive for to live for and leave behind, but also what you're willing to die for. What is important enough to fight for and die for. What things you are not going to bend the knee to
Right.
upon being a martyr or standing up, like we like to say, be a man about it, man. Be a man. You know what to be a man about. You know what to fall on your sword for. And if a damn sure ain't for this bullshit money that has got no backing and is used against us to control us. So I won't say too much at one time. I think that's enough food for thought. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation. And, I land my plane with that.
I say we got Teody. Hey, Rue here. Teody. Mario went damn full blown Christian there, for a minute. I
No,
ain't know
sir. Not Christian. No, sir.
I didn't know what the hell was going on for a minute there.
Wait a minute. Everybody is, I am definitely a Christian, so
No,
I
no
don't have a
problem.
problem with it.
No, I
Yeah,
was just speaking for me, sis. I was just speaking for me.
it's just I know Mario, and I'm like he went full blown, So I was just trying to check with Teody. Teody know Mario, so that's just a little jokey joke we was having, right there. But Teody, come on in to the conversation. What would you like to add? To the conversation. I think I'm trying to get Mel up on here. Go ahead, Teody. Oh yeah, you breaking
Uh-oh.
up.
He got that one bar going. Mm-mm-mm.
Tell y'all something too, though, right? Like I don't be tripping for real, but I be. Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the app's been tripping on me the whole time. I didn't have the option to hit the plus sign, so I couldn't get on early. You hear me now?
Somebody else was telling me that like they didn't have the option, and it said something about my settings, and I'm like, I don't recall doing anything to my settings. I'm gonna try to figure it out. But I thought it was something different that I'd no longer see request, down in my box anymore. And I want to say this real quick too. I don't really be tripping, off of these numbers, but whenever we have these conversations about our discussions, like I watch the room go from like 100 and it'll dwindle down like to right where it is now, like to 25, 30. And I've seen where TikTok will do that thing where they make your live, start falling off, or whatever. But I think it's interesting. I can have other conversations and be building and doing other things. And it's like those lives are not impacted. And I watch, the numbers like do some interesting things, but consistently, you all, and I just want you all to know this, consistently, when we have or when I hold these conversations, something strange, it goes on. So I just wanted to point that part out. Teody, and then we're gonna go to, Mel, and we'll go from there. Go ahead, Teody.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. And I usually don't have, issues with the being able to hear me and stuff, but that's interesting. And you're right. When it comes to something that's about us, and particularly like decolonization, there's all kind of problems start to happen. And when it comes to decolonization, which I really love the theme of the room, it's difficult. And we had this conversation briefly on your platform the other day, C2K. People who are not us don't share our interests. And what I mean by that, they don't share our best interest. I don't even think TikTok shares our best interest, because these things wouldn't be happening when we cover our best interests. And which that's something different. Rather than me being upset about how we're treated, which is consistent across various cultures, they all kind of treat us the same. What I'm noticing is it's indicating that we have a lot more power than we think if they have to focus an algorithm to shut us down when we talk about ourselves. So there's something special about us. Maybe we're the genie in the bottle. Maybe we're God. Something is up with us that they would have to keep this level of battle up. And I remember Bobby Hemmett said it years ago when I met him. He said that there is no reason for the level of racism to be meted out against us, because we're essentially a defeated people. We don't really pose a threat because we're all Christian or Muslim. We all believe in the Western things that they pushed on us. And so the threat has to be something bigger than they can explain. And so in decolonizing, my question for everyone is, how far are we willing to decolonize? Is there like something that we're not going to deal with to decolonize, even though it may in fact be colonizing? Because I think we have limits to what we want to decolonize. And sometimes I think that leads to us not thinking outside the box and having the access to our deep ancestral wellspring of wisdom that we're not applying because we have barriers that are built in from the system that we're in. So, comfort is great, except you won't learn anything. So how much are we willing to move beyond our comfort zone to gain new skills and new opportunities? We have a history that's so deep that we have all of the tools we need. We have humanities tools. So, I've always said this, and I'll land right here. We have to really learn how to not take prisoners. And what I mean by not taking prisoners, not holding anything off the table for decolonization. All of it, including the religion, needs to be decolonized.
Okay, so I want to say this, and I know I don't need to defend Teody when he says we're a defeated people. I'm sure he can articulate and explain himself, but when he said that, I took it not that, like we're defeated, but it's like the scripture says, my people are destroyed. And destroyed, it just means we're not together, And when you look at what the government, especially within the FBI, how they have a declaration that says we are a threat to their national security, that we cannot come together. So there is something about us that is not being openly talked about. So when he says defeated, I look at it in comparison with biblical scripture that speaks about a people being destroyed or people being scattered, not having that strength. And ATP TV, I just want you to know I'm a preacher too. So We can talk about that, later. But want to get my brother Mel, on, and then we're gonna open the floor back up and let you guys have a chance to communicate.
And
Brother
CGK,
Mel.
before you do that, let me clarify. I don't mean defeated as in we'll never win. I mean defeated as in we are no longer a physical or mental threat to the systems that continue to try to destroy us. We're not a threat to them. That's what I mean. That's what Bobby Hemming meant.
That's the same comparison that I was making based on Destroyed, but I knew you could do it, and I wasn't trying to do it. I was just, trying to give that comparison, and I was dead on, with respect to what you were saying there. But let's see, my brother Mel, how you feeling, brother?
I'm recovering well, brother. Thank you. How's everybody on the panel doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Pretty good.
I just really jumped into the conversation, and couple of things I heard that I want to piggyback off of, because I do feel as if decolonizing the mind must come first. Myself and some of my comrades were having a conversation about this just yesterday. We managed to fight hard enough to get the chains off our wrists and off our ankles, and then we allowed ourselves to chain our minds into this westernized way of thinking. I think that it is very important in decolonizing the mind is separating physically. And I think separating physically is really a key point to our survival. Right now in this administration, we're seeing revelation take place right now. And I'm not no preacher, but I know that scripture is our history. And I know that we are the chosen people. And with that being said, we need to get back to our divine way of living. And I heard the young brother say unity. And the core word in that being unit, working as one. And we're not a monolith, but we are, what's the word I'm looking for? We do need to get back on code. I'll just try to keep it simple, because we possess everything that we need as a people. And if we bring that together collectively, we can move our needle forward. And right now, at this point in time, that's really what it's about. Separating ourselves, and some of the things that we can do are effortless. It's effortless to keep your money in your pocket, and it's effortless to spend with your own. And that way we can start building our own economic base. And what we really don't understand as a people collectively, we don't understand the power that we possess financially. And we need to really start practicing group economics. Not only do we need to separate ourselves, we need to separate our finances. That way we can have us a base economy. That way we can make moves. I often talk about a reverse migration, where we come back to the South, we occupy the land, then we can claim that land, then we can be representatives of that land. And it's not a hard thing to do, but it is a process to it. But one thing as a Black man in this country that I stand on is our resilience. And see, we come from the ones that fought. We come from the ones that thought, because you had to be a thinking person to survive. So see, we have that same resilient bloodline in us right now. And it's something that my daughter is doing that I can appreciate. She's not teaching my granddaughter about Christmas and no Easter bunny and no Valentine's and Cupid and all that. And I respect that. I can respect that from my daughter. And what my daughter lays down for my granddaughter, I appreciate, I respect. And I don't try to intervene in that. And this is what we have to do. We have to teach it to our children so that they can teach it to their children. And that's where we start getting our strength. And that's when we can start really moving the needle, because then we can give our children something that maybe wasn't given to us, the truth. And I'll land there.
All right, pretty good. Hey, that thing about dealing with their customs and their traditions, yes, we definitely have to separate ourselves. That's a part of that decolonization in the mind. As it says, come out of her, my people. And I always say the question is, are you that people? But we have Dr. B 818. Now, Dr. B, we ain't gonna turn this into no religious discussion, up here. What you want to add to the conversation, 818? 818. If you're talking, you're on mute.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. What I mean, I'm trying to understand what you're discussing, I guess.
Oh, well, goodness gracious, man. You came all up on the panel for that. You could have stayed in the audience until you figured it out. But we're talking about decolonization. We're talking about uniting against oppression. We're talking about, a history, of things that have happened to our people here in the United States. And we're talking about global oppression.
What is decolonization? What do you mean?
Decolonization, that's something you can look at within the UN. They have a resolution 1514. You can start there and it'll give you the understanding of what decolonization is, when it started, back in the 60s, and how, they come to understand that colonization is unlawful and it's illegal. So you can take time and look, at that resolution. Bring yourself.
There's been plenty of abuse of people. For example, creating the United States citizen, where they allegedly freed the slaves but made everyone subjects to the jurisdiction thereof. And by your claim to be a U.S. citizen, you fall under that fraud, that trick, that unlawful trick. So, I mean, I think there's many problems, and I don't feel that I can solve these problems. Maybe you guys think you can solve the problems of the world. I don't know.
818, are you a sovereign citizen?
What is a sovereign citizen? That's an undefined term. There's a U.S. national. Do you understand what a U.S. national is?
U.S. national.
It's like a national.
I'm a national myself. I was just wondering. I was actually being facetious, 818, because I know what you're talking about. And I have those conversations about the 14th Amendment and the different perspective of jurisdiction. But every time you had that conversation, people ask, are you a sovereign citerzen? So I was just being facetious.
That's what cops are trained, but that's like such a misnomer and ridiculous term that's invented to demonize people, actually.
Sure. Hold on, 818. Go ahead, ATP TV. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, you stated that you are a U.S. national. Are you a U.S. citizen?
You talking to 818?
Yes, I am.
Oh, what were you saying?
You stated that you are a U.S. national. Are you a U.S. citizen?
Well, do you choose to be a U.S. citizen or not? How does one become a U.S. citizen?
So you don't choose to become a U.S. citizen. You either are a U.S. citizen born under the Constitution, have declared yourself under the Constitution, or you are a U.S. national, which means that you have a split duality. So I'm asking you, are you a U.S. citizen born in the United States? Because you mentioned a clause under the jurisdiction thereof, part of the Constitution, but you did not mention the entire clause and what that means. So I'm asking you, are you a U.S. national or are you a U.S. citizen? Which one?
Well, that's a suggestive statement that that they're mutually exclusive. I don't believe they're mutually exclusive. I don't believe the 14th Amendment tells one how they become a U.S. citizen. It doesn't.
So the 14th Amendment is specific, and so is the 13th Amendment. And as a matter of fact, the Bill of Rights.
It's specific. What do you mean
Hold
it's
on.
specific?
Wait a
That
minute.
doesn't tell
Wait
us
a
much.
minute. Wait a minute. The Bill of Rights 1 through 10 also is very specific in regards to naturalization and also citizenship as a U.S. citizen. So I'm asking you, you stated you are a U.S. national. Are you also a U.S. citizen? Yes or no?
How does one become a U.S. citizen?
Are
That's
you
my question.
born in America? Yes or no?
Born in the Americas? You mean North, South, or
No,
Central
not the
America?
Americas. The United States of America. Are
Okay.
you born in
I'm
the
just pointing
United
out the
States of
misnomer here.
America?
The U.S.
No,
is
there's no
not
misnomer.
America.
There's no misnomer.
Yes, you said America, and America is not the United States of America.
Okay. The United States of America is what I'm speaking of. And again, if you're not a U.S. citizen, I don't believe you should be a part of this conversation.
You don't believe. Well, some people are unbelievers. That's true. There's many things people don't believe,
Well, no,
and the
that's what
demons
you
believe
said.
and tremble.
It's not. Well,
So,
I'm definitely not a demon. And at the end of the day, you are the one that made the claim that you are a U.S. national. So if you are a U.S. national, are you claiming that you're also not a U.S. citizen?
I ask you how you become a U.S. citizen, and the 14th Amendment does not tell you that. So how
Okay,
do we
so
know? Do
were
we have
your
a piece of
parents,
paper?
let me clear it up for you. Were your parents naturalized? Anybody in your family, down your family tree, was
No,
anybody
you see,
naturalized to become a U.S. citizen? I'm asking a clear question. Hold on, because don't start getting out of your skin now, because you made the claim. Was anyone in your family
no,
line?
I'm not playing an argument with you,
Wait
ma'am.
a minute.
I'm not
Wait a minute. Hold on,
answering
sir. I know that you're
an
not
elusive
used to. I
question.
know that you're not used to someone actually understanding what they're saying. Was anyone in
I
your
don't believe
family?
you understand
Was
the
anyone?
14th Amendment,
We're not talking
honestly.
about the 14th Amendment. I'm going to state my
Yes, I
claim
am, because
again.
that's where it defines
Hold
U.S. citizen.
on.
That's the
Hold
first
on. Hold on.
mention.
Hold
Is
on.
it not?
Was anyone in your family tree naturalized or required citizenship in order to be in the United States?
If you can answer me how
Okay, so
one
I got
becomes
my
a U.S.
answer.
citizen, I
You're,
may
you're
be able
gonna
to answer
answer.
your
You're gonna
question.
ask
If
me a
not, how
question.
can I
No,
answer your
no
question?
problem. No problem.
We gonna
Because
drop
the
it.
14th Amendment does not tell us how you become a U.S. citizen.
All right, we're
It
gonna
doesn't
move on.
say what makes you subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And so it is null and void for vagueness, in my opinion. Now,
We're
that's my
gonna move
opinion.
on.
It's different than yours, I think. But that's
We're gonna
just
move.
I'm just thinking.
We're gonna move on. 818. We got thoughts.
Sounds good.
Thoughts that just came in. Sound like he might be trying to rescue you. 818. Thoughts. Welcome to the conversation. What you want to add to the conversation?
Peace, bro. Not trying to throw me in there and talk about I'm saving nobody. I caught what she was saying. At first I didn't understand what she was saying. Now I know what she was saying. I believe I know what she was saying. Now I ain't trying to save nobody, but I understood what he was saying too, cause he right, but he wrong on the aspect of what she's saying in that context. Cause I understand a U.S. citizen as someone who is, volunteered to be a part of the business. But going back to the concept of the
I think I'd agree with that statement.
Yeah, that's why I said I know what you were talking about. And then after I listened for a little bit more, I believe I comprehend what she's talking about with which I know you wouldn't never agree with, ever. I already know that. If I know what she talking about, because we from this land, you know what I'm saying? When she's talking about what it was, naturalization and all that type of stuff, and asking about your ancestors. But I had this thought a minute ago, bro, with this quote unquote these battles that's going on. I don't think it'll ever turn up, because the only people who can get rid of them edophiles that's up there is the pawns, which are basically the YT people. Because if anybody else go up in there and knock them off, it's gonna start some other stuff, because they so brainwashed into thinking that, you know, this is their land, this is their country, and they really won a war when it really was a whole bunch of that dirtiness that knocked us off, because they was nasty back then, so all them diseases was really knocking people off. But the people that's in power depend on the pawns, because the pawns benefit a little bit, not knowing that they really like you heard of that new thing that they just passed about the military being linked up with Israel.
I don't know how true it is, and I do say if they're merging, that means one taking over the other, and we hadn't learned just yet, you know, who and or what that is. But I don't know how true it is, but I've heard the rumor.
Yeah, because I seen a lot of people talking about only 2 like congressmen or something was against it. I wouldn't doubt it at the end of the day, because they do that type of stuff because the pawns allow it. We really can't go in and do that because everybody is against us. I seen one brother saying that everybody wants to punch down on us because nobody else wants to be at the bottom. So it's everybody against us because nobody else wants to be below us type of stuff. So they benefit from that process. But that decolonization is, man, that's the hardest thing in the world on the world level. Because everybody else benefits from it. Even some of our quote unquote, I heard a brother say they call them graham crackers. Our brothers and sisters call them graham crackers. You know what I'm saying? And another word that people are always saying, white supremacy. I heard another sister say, no, it isn't that. It's white narcissism, because by definition, the definition of white narcissism fits way better than white supremacy because they're not supreme at all. But I'll land on that.
All right, so we're going to get ready to shut this thing down. So I'm going to go through the cycle of those of you all that's on the stage and for who would like to say, you know, their departing conversation and the words. And I'll start with Robert. And if you guys want to, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But we'll start with Robert. You know, you've been very patient, and I'll let you go ahead and, you know, have
I
your.
would just like to say, I would just like to say to everybody on here, you know, it's like what it's exactly what the intelligent host stated earlier. You know, look at colonialization also as it's an umbrella to all the problems of the people on the planet, because when you start to really look at it, colonialization in and of itself, it's also colonizing everybody's money. They want to turn everybody's money into digital. They want to be able to take real property, real assets, tokenize this stuff, right? All of this stuff is a way to colonize the world, to control the world, to make the world consolidated for control purposes. So I would just challenge everybody to start here mentally, start to decolonize your mind, and and something else I want to say. I know a lot of people, we think that people are watching us. We thinking that people are judging us. You keep in mind, as quiet as kept, everybody got that same thought about everybody, because society in and of itself and the leaders of society has dropped this poison in all of our minds so that we police one another, vice police Big Brother, right? So again, you know, decolonization it starts with how we're going to be treating one another in our communities and how we deal with people outside our communities, how we deal with people globally, and how we respect each other's differences, right? So that's all I would like to say. Peace, love, and power to everybody, and I bid everybody a blessed night.
I appreciate you, man. Y'all make sure y'all follow Robert. All right. All right. So we'll go to ATP TV next.
So, I guess this is the reason why I'm very cautious when, I hear people say certain things, because I'll put it to you like this. There's no defense in declaring your citizenship. You either declare your citizenship to the land that you are governing or governed under, or you are not or do not have allegiance to this land. You only have fake patriotism. The other thing is that I push back on the notion that our Constitution does not actually declare who the beneficiaries are. Robert mentioned, like any trust, there are trustees that belong to a trust. Those are the beneficiaries of the trust. The beneficiaries of the trust provide the consent to be governed. That is why the amendments, like 1 through 15, are so very important. If someone like the gentleman up there that says he's a U.S. national, but he's not declaring that he's a U.S. citizen and claiming that there is no claim to citizenship, then I would say that he is a foreign national and that he subscribes to some other ideology that is outside the scope of the Constitution. So my position as someone who is studying the Constitution for legal purposes is to make sure that our people understand how to wrap themselves in the Constitution by consent and use it to protect yourself for state authority and power. You cannot be just a U.S. national and decline U.S. citizenship, because there is no other jurisdiction that you fall under that would protect you. And I'll land it there. Thank you, the Cause 2K, for having me.
Absolutely, y'all. Make sure you follow ATP TV. Thank you, sis, for coming on to the panel. Like I said, I'm trying to reach out to you, in your inbox. So we'll need to hook up later on, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so now we'll go to Mel.
All right. Thank you for having me, brother, once again. And if I could just say a last word, I guess I would say, solidarity, and that's really what we need to focus on. Our solidarity and working together and understanding the importance of unity. There's a lot of talk on these apps now about these FBAs and all this other jazz. And in my organization, and a motto that I like to use is Black First. Because if we come together collectively, globally, we're in power. And this is something that we've got to understand. We got to learn how to work together for the betterment of our people. We are 92 to 93% of this globe's population. And if we can learn how to come together and work in unity collectively as a people, we can shut this westernized mindset down. And I, for one, don't doubt us. Nobody gives us the benefit of the doubt. And I think it's time that we give each other grace. And I'll land there.
Okay. I appreciate you, Brother Mel. Y'all make sure you follow, Mel. And a speedy recovery to you, Brother Mel.
Thank you, sir.
Now we're gonna go to thoughts.
Yeah, can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm gonna leave it out with the enemy of my enemy should be my friend, but you know how that goes. And going off what the brother just had said, the solidarity thing, it really can't happen because we sitting in a neighborhood and my house ain't cleaned up yet. I need to clean my house before I go outside to the park and chill with everybody else. And everybody else should clean up their house. And then we come to the park and handle business. Because that same concept I said earlier, everybody want to punch down. And that's even our, quote unquote, some of our own people. Like some of our people is FBAs, or some of our people is Indians, some of our people is Moors. We need to come together before we try to come together with other people from other countries off the top, because we really stronger. We really the strongest of all. That's why it's everybody against us, and that's why I ain't got no problem with it whatsoever. Because I like it when it's 2 or 3 against me, because now it's competition. Because y'all can't fuck with me by myself, any kind of way it go. So once we recognize that and stop, I think it's a responsibility thing, because everybody be like, nah, I need help. Nah, we need to help each other first, meaning the people over here in this region, and then they help themselves. Because if we in the mix and we all together, all the brunt of the work gonna be on us, and that's not fair. I don't believe that's fair. So to everybody who be beefing over semantics and names and stuff like that and don't want to listen to each other, man, all you gotta do is slow down, listen, and remember, I really wanted to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So get with the program.
Thank you, thoughts. And I would say, as to ATPTV said, no, the enemy of my enemy is still my enemy. But I know where you're going. The enemy of my enemy is my friend until they, are my enemy, again. So I appreciate your thoughts for coming up on to the panel. So now we're gonna go to Teody.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have a lot to say today. I was listening intently. Appreciate everybody's perspective, as Brother Rio would say. And when you made that comment, I was like, watch out now, Rio. I didn't comment on that. Oh, yeah, watch out now. But I think we need to study together and work on ways to communicate that doesn't shut other people down. And that's a struggle I have, and all of us could work better at. When it comes to the 14th Amendment, we were not parties to the contract. In other words, we wasn't at the party, right? And the events that came out of that party, the events that came out of that contract, didn't take our own agency into consideration. And you can do a quick Google search, and even a ChatGPT, Copilot, Deep Thought, whatever AI you want to use, and ask, did the so-called Black African American have any agency or any say-so on the 14th Amendment? And it'll tell you right out, no. And so the next question was, then, if we had no agency in the contract and we're not parties to the contract, is it another form of imperialism or colonization? And it said yes. And so we are still technically kind of enslaved because we didn't author the contract. And anytime you have a contract, just in contract law, both sides have the right to negotiate the contract. Is that right, C2K?
That's correct. Yep.
And so if we didn't have negotiating power in the contract, what makes us think that that's serving us? And then the other part, I'll land on that, is when we were enslaved, we didn't have any say-so. When the 14th Amendment came, we didn't have any say-so. And so the shape of our civil rights struggle was literally shaped by a community outside of us. So we still have a lot of work to do in communicating with each other. And the other brother said, we need to first work on each other in our own community with our various thought processes in order to join the world with anything that makes sense in a unified way. The unity only comes when we go internally and we seek to unify with our own differences within ourselves. So I'll land there.
Thank you, Brother Teody. Y'all make sure you follow Teody. And just what Thoughts was saying, as far as needing to have your house clean, it's like, yeah, let's get these houses clean so, we can get this work done. Brother Mario, you up next.
Shots fired. I heard them shots fired. I had to duck though. It went right over my head, Brother Teody. It went right over my head, but it's all good. But I'm a little firmer in my stance. And I recognize that I was forcibly put into a position of citizenship under this corporation, which they would apply it as being subject to, which means I have to adhere to all of those statutes, codes, and municipalities. But I've also learned that through contract, my consent wasn't given, and neither did they ask. It would behoove me not to take advantage of the Constitution, which I agree with. Excuse me if I butcher it, but APADT, I believe it was, and Brother Robert saying that we are under trust, but I believe we are not able to enforce the parameters of that trust being beneficiaries because the trustees have seized control and they're running amok and they have polluted the educational system so that we cannot take advantage of being beneficiaries of this trust. And part of decolonization is unlearning everything they're trying to teach us so that we can take our rightful place and not even need them as trustees, which is allowed for in the Constitution by having treaties that stand higher than the Constitution itself and predate the Constitution and also the U.S. corporation. But I look forward to studying and learning with each and every one of you with intelligent minds, and we can hash this all out together. And because we do need to be unified in our stance. And I'll go ahead and land with that, Brother 2K.
All right. Thank you, Brother Mario. More words of wisdom there. And with ATP TV, that's the reason why I'm saying we need to have these discussions, on a separate platform where we can actually pull our evidence-based academic research and come to understand the points and positions we're taking. Because again, I'm realizing there are people that'll hear ATP TV and they will side and work, in that vein. And I'm just understanding that there are, multiple ways that we're moving and or doing, this thing. And people are having success in more than one venue. Okay. So we have to be aware, of that. And if through what ATP TV and the research that she brings, to the table, we can see something beneficial from it, or she's able to grasp, onto something that, we bring at the end of the day, it won't be I think, I feel, my opinion. We'll be dealing with evidence-based academic research. So, from that standpoint, we just got to keep plugging, you all. All right, so let me go to Starman Alpha. Go ahead and give us your closing words, Starman Alpha. You've been hanging in there, man. You've been hanging in there.
Yeah. Thanks again. It's getting late here, even, but yeah, just in time. But yeah, thanks again. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that, when I spoke about human rights earlier, I wasn't talking in terms of, I don't know, maybe, the etymological meanings of human or esoteric implications of human. I was just talking about the concept of it and its application. And I was talking about it to highlight the whitey hypocrisy on the concept of human rights. And someone like me, cannot be fooled by them and their concept of it, because long before they came up with human rights, especially being a feudal people, I come from a very different culture where our cultures are not feudal. And long before the concept of their concept of human rights, we already had the concept of Ubuntu. So, I was just talking about it to highlight the hypocrisy of their application of that concept. And also, when I talked about the fall of America, when I speak about America and its fall, I particularly mean the American government, which, represents that another toxic concept that some people harbor in their heads, that they are somehow superior to everybody else, white supremacy. They are the government. They are the ones who are the brains of. I actually think countries can be seen as having personalities, because at the end of the day, they are controlled by people who have personalities and emotions and interests. So, yeah. So I actually think the fall of this government will play a massive role in decolonizing the people, because this government, to maintain itself in place, even dissolved the original idea of the American, of whatever they are, or the Americans were even trying to set up for themselves, which was a republic. That republic has literally, it's funny how, these people were running away from feudalism, from the old countries, run to create a republic, and then now they are talking of devolving into a techno-feudal state. So I actually think whitey people on a deep level now do not understand democracy. And that's why when you look at their history of trying to practice democracy, it has always failed. The first time they tried it in Greece, which they make so much noise about, look what happened. They devolved back into dictatorship. Then they tried it again with Rome. Rome started as a republic, ran for 500 years. Look what happened. Devolved back into an empire. Sorry, ran for 250 years or something like that, before it devolves into an empire with a dictator. Then they try it again in the USA. Oh, a republic. Look at it today. It's a techno-feudal state with these capitalists, the new barons and aristocrats, and the CEOs, the new kings, running. A lot of people tell you, capitalism is some sort of arbiter of democracy. How many CEOs call all the staff into his office to make a decision? Or does he just make the decisions and impose on the staff? There's nothing democratic. In fact, capitalism is as feudal as a feudal system with a king and kingdom. And these are the people running the planet today. And this is the system I want gone. Because, as an African from south of the Sahara, we didn't practice feudal systems. Feudal systems only came into Africa 1,000 years ago with destabilization from the Arab world that starts the trans-Saharan slave trade. That's when you begin to see the first African kingdoms. Otherwise, Africans lived in a completely different socio-economic, judicial, political system that was not feudal. And what these Eurasians have done has been a systematic destruction of my culture for a 1,000-year period. In fact, we Africans got off lucky, because when you look at all the other 4 continents they attacked, they control 3 of those continents. Africans are still the only ones. Yeah, we don't fully control it, but unlike when you look at the Americas, the indigenous population has been pushed to the verge of extinction. Their cultures have been completely destroyed. When you compare it to the African, look at Australia. That's even worse. Though I predict if something radical does not happen in Australia, the Australian Aborigines will be pushed to extinction within 150 to 200 years. You go to Australia and you would not see any Aborigines anymore. So yeah, that's what I mean by the collapse of this empire for the good of the rest of the planet. Not for my fellow black people in America. I actually, foresee or hope that the American state itself breaks up and different groups have different enclaves to manage their own sovereignty and affairs. Because the thing with multiculturalism is that at some point, the different cultures will clash. What happens? And there's a question I always ask. I don't know, for the sake of time, I know you're about to close, but maybe next time I'll come ask it. I ask this question so that people understand what sovereignty actually really means. Because it's very dangerous, two groups sharing one sovereignty. What happens when it all goes wrong?
Yeah.
Each group should have their own sovereignty. And thank you. And I was going to say this as well, just to quickly round up. Talking about decolonization, yes, I mean, like what I said about the American empire or company breaking up, and each group being able to carve their own sovereignty. Yes, I mean, I'm not saying I'm right. That's just a suggestion from me. But as for the African continent, I can boldly talk there. And before I even say talk for the African continent, decolonization of the Black people is going to happen in different dimensions. Yes, there's the mind, there's the borders, which is where it primarily applies to Africa. The borders, those European borders created at the Berlin Conference, they've created havoc on the African continent. This is a big part of why a lot of the African countries are not stable. Because, what they did by creating countries like Ethiopia, where you have like up to 20 different ethnic groups, Nigeria, where you have up to 51 different ethnic groups. Literally, it's like taking 22 different species of ants, put them in a bottle, and then shake the bottle. What do you think is going to happen? Chaos, of course, and G-side, until only one species of ants remain. This is why people like me call those countries in Africa colonial traps. That's not how our ancestors ran things. They created those countries for their own interests. They weren't designed to work for the Africans. And that's why Africa looks so dysfunctional. And on the African continent, there's two types of coups. People need to understand this. First of all, since independence is the 60s, even before the Traore age, there have been 106 coups on the African continent. 106.
I'm gonna have to interject a little bit, Star Man.
Yeah.
Because we trying to get up out of here. And, So
just to round up. So decolonization of the mind, decolonization of the borders, and then some people will need to go through WAR to decolonize themselves, considering the amount of violence that was invested into getting them held down, and that the only language these people seem to understand themselves is violence. So people need to open their minds to these things. If you really want freedom, nobody's going to come handy on a platter. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. And yeah, thank you very much.
You're absolutely correct. They're not going to bring freedom on a platter, and we are a people still being governed by another people, and liberation should be on the ballot, and we do need to reclaim our autonomy. So thank you very much, Starman. I had to save you for last, 818, because I don't want the Oscars and the Jack Dempseys or Jack Daniels. I don't want them to eat up the minnow. What you want to say, 818?
Well, I didn't quite understand what you just said, but that's fine. It seems to me all these issues are a bit mute. It's great you're trying to do something, but aren't they introducing cashless system and great controls? I mean, I was walking out of CVS the other day with some stuff in my hand I didn't pay for. I wasn't actually walking. I was just going to reach a little basket. The door wouldn't open. They got the systems right in place. You're going out of a store and you go out the exit. You already paid for the stuff, but the cart locks right up. All these controls are going in place with the cashless society system. It's also referred to by some as a beast system. Total control system coming in. I really see that as what we're up against. But You may have a different viewpoint, but if you, I mean, you must see this coming,
Yeah,
right?
we know it's coming, but at the same time, being complacent is not the right thing either. Some folks are just sitting back saying, "Oh, woe is me. There's nothing we can do," and for that reason, then they function off of legitimacy, saying through acquiescence, we say it's proper, we say it's appropriate, we say it's just. So again, we're moving to file that formal complaint so that it's understood, because we can't expect for a system of government or those that have been ruling to enforce the law and or rule that's going to benefit us as the people. We have to understand how to enforce these measures, by right and or way that we have to do that. So cannot have the mindset, that you have, that, there's nothing, that can be done, or,
I didn't have that mindset. I don't have that mindset. Well, what I'm
No,
saying is,
I thought you said you don't think that the world can be stopped or changed or something along those lines. You said something, to
well,
that.
no, I mean, if they put a cashless system in with total controls, what can you do? You're operating on their financial platform. Maybe I would look to operate outside of that. Maybe ask for whoever you believe in as a supreme being to help you out. I mean, what solution do we really have? So,
We do have solutions and we do have options. It's just the point, like I said, that we're able to bring it to the front to where we can enforce these things, something that a world or society is not used to seeing. Because again, most people have been under the impression that it's the job of a representative and or senator to do these things, but we're now moving.
yeah, good luck with that.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's your thought. That's your thought process. Like good luck, and I'm saying we don't need luck.
No,
We
I'm
have to.
good luck with depending on politicians. I mean, no, it never worked.
We don't deal with luck. We deal with the best of skills, and for that reason, we just have to keep. We have to keep plugging. So again, 818. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yep. As we are getting up out of here, and I appreciate everybody that had come to this live today, as we talked about a number of different things and had a number of knowledgeable people up here on the stage. So I'm going to post this video on the Protection Against Search and Seizure YouTube channel. You may be able to find that if you go into YouTube and you search for the Protection Against Search and Seizure. That channel will pop up. You'll see some of the other discussions that I've had and conversations here lately that I've talked about. I'm telling you, they've been some bangers, some head busters, as they say. But you guys can go to the channel, fairly new channel. I'm trying to build it up. You can subscribe, to that channel. If you have a problem, finding it, just hit me in the back channel, send me a message or something. I'll make sure you get it. But I want to thank you all for coming, into the live, and for having these conversations, for all of your comments, and I'm going to try to find out what TikTok is doing that people can't just come up on my live like they used to, and folks can't find the button. I'm telling y'all, it's some strange stuff, that's going on. But I've been victorious as far as when they try to hit me with the violations and shutting the channel down. I've been victorious with having them to overturn, all of the complaints, thus far. Not bragging, but just letting you guys know, that the conversations we have here must be impactful, because I don't deal with things. We don't have these conversations, around what we think and what we feel. We do like to come out with evidence-based academic research. And I think somebody was trying to ask, well, what is the source? And, when you deal with evidence-based academic research, the source is that thing that you bring from a substantive fact or substantive evidence or something, such as a constitution or something such as American jurisprudence, or you may have some other historical finding, and we just expound on these things and we look to see where these things are connected or interconnected. So from that standpoint, it supersedes a modern thought or those things that are tied within American pragmatism, and we talk a lot about, that here lately as well. Bringing that to the forefront of people's mind is to research American pragmatism. In fact, the next time I come on, I'll probably read to you some of the writing that I have that goes along with a project that I'm working on to have us united against oppression. And I speak about the detriments of pragmatism in that document. But ultimately, we'll be looking to get over 5 million participants to acknowledge the need to end oppression, not only here, in the US, but to globally end oppression, all across the globe. And for that standpoint, we'll be at the forefront, of that enlightenment. We'll be at the forefront, of that cause, because when we are liberated as a people, then the entire world can truly be liberated. And when we stand to govern and we look to govern differently than those of our oppressors, and we come to understand what a righteous rule and or government is, then we have an opportunity at that point to lead, the entire world in correctness and or righteousness. And I just say that because right now, the way they're ruling and the way they've been ruling, they haven't been good stewards, and they can't bring about peace. And everything they do, it seems to cause destruction. Like I said, the air, the food, the water, everything is polluted. So we need to have a change within stewardship as far as who's responsible, for the prosperity of the world and allowing people and the world or the earth itself to heal. It's definitely necessary. And obviously they can't do it. If they could, they would have done it. But, all the promises, have been broken. And, every time they say peace, somebody lose their life, or somebody's land is taken or someone's home, it's just good things don't happen, when they say peace. So with that, I want to say thank you all for coming, into the live. If you want this video, you can go to the page Protection Against Search and Seizure on YouTube. I'll make sure I put it up. And that's Protection Against Search and Seizure. You can search that on YouTube. You should see the other videos, but I'll put this up there. So good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you all are. And thank you again. Be safe, y'all.